Have you ever wondered what kind of flower is on Robin's hair? What does sleep is the rehearsal of death mean? And did you know that Penacony's storyline is actually a metaphor for drug addiction? Content warning: discussion of drug addiction and death, because that's the theme of Penacony. And this guy actually graduated with a pharmaceutical degree and used that knowledge for the thematic construction of Penacony. So to elucidate on said theme, I will be listing out the drugs mentioned in Penacony and their implications. As usual, the descriptions have the links with more details on the subject. Since this is a heavy topic, please take care and stop if you feel triggered by the contents. The first drugs associated with Penacony are actually some offhanded joke Mr. Roasted Chicken used in the pre-release interview. Penicillin, aspirin, Penacony. It sounds like the name of a medicine. Of course, penicillin is an antibiotic, and aspirin is a non-steroidal anti-inflammatory drug, so neither of them has much to do with addiction per se. However, it was the next part of the interview that's interesting. When asked what Penacony means, Mr. Roasted Chicken joked that Penacony is penal colony because he couldn't really call it by a really long chemical name of a drug. Well, that long name is actually the chemical name of Nordiazepam, also known as Nordiazepam, a drug in the benzo class and a GABA modulator. In plain English, Nordiazepam is a depressant. Its side effects can include memory loss, somnolence, euphoria, heightened aggression, heightened risk of suicide, addiction, withdrawal syndromes. But at the same time, it is a sedative and can be indicated to treat anxiety as well. In other words, that's basically the harmony power that Robin used on us when we first arrived in Golden Hours, and that's also how Soulglad works, and the entire theme of Penacony is a single drug, a sedative that calms you down, but it can also be an addiction when abused. As a drug class, benzodiazepines are rifled with overprescriptions and lack of proper warnings to the patients. Manufacturers of benzo were sued in a class action lawsuit in the UK for this very reason, although the lawsuit went nowhere due to the government withdrawing fundings for the lawsuit. While they are not opioids, benzos and abusive benzos are very much part of the opioid crisis because of how easily accessible they are in the US, which, well, was one of the inspirations for Penacony. As the family sells Soulglad to people without telling them about the side effects such as addiction and memory loss, the gears of emotions that we had to put back into people in the minigames, we as readers can't help but be reminded of how benzodiazepines and other addictive drugs have historically been sold without the proper warnings to patients, and sometimes, the decision to do so is on purpose. So of course, dream syrup can also be used as a tranquilizer while being a recreational drink at the same time. Speaking of Soulglad, it is quite obvious that aside from the benzo inspiration, the drink is inspired off Coca-Cola, which was originally sold as syrups and actually did contain cocaine back in the past. Once upon a time, it was considered the cure-all, the panacea that can treat anything from brain and nerve problems, and a fashionable drink that epitomizes a lifestyle of freedom and luxury. The game actually gave this old marketing scheme of Coke the name syrupism, as a nod to how Coke was originally sold as syrups. And of course, the Coca-Cola rebranding to New Coke, which was a new formulation that resembled its rival Pepsi, was also included in the game as classic Soulglad and your usual commercial Soulglad. An interesting trivia is that the original Coca-Cola, the one with actual cocaine, is also referenced in the game, as well as epical Soulglad, the drink made from a dream leaf, as in coca leaf, that supposedly went extinct but isn't anymore. And yes, canonically, epical Soulglad is also sold as a recreational drink on Penacony, cocaine I mean dream leaf and all. Which brings us to the meat of the chicken twin story. It is not an understatement to say that Soulglad is Penacony, from both the Watsonian standpoint in universe and the Doylist standpoint in the story narrative. Right in 2.0, we were shown how Soulglad was first created as a way to soothe away the pain of the prisoners by a chef named Sousa, whom you have probably known of as Mr. Soda in the Dream Joy film event. Because of the effect of Soulglad, the prisoners became addicted to the drinks, forgetting to slave away in the penal colony for the IPC. As a result, the IPC killed Sousa and confiscated the stash of Soulglad from the prisoners. They were supposed to toil and keep mining memoria for the IPC, not drinking and addictive drugs, which makes for some funny ironies that the current IPC is actively working with the Penacony leaders to spread said addictive drinks to the rest of the galaxy, all for profit. By the way, Sousa actually means stone, so you can say that the inventor of Soulglad was kinda stoned. Of course, with the death of Sousa and the IPC confiscating all the remaining Soulglad, the prisoners finally got mad, which brought us to the plot of the Hanu Prison Break event. A follower of destruction, Hanu, organized an uprising against the IPC to break free of the cage. Assisting him were the three visiting trailblazers, Mikhail, Tiernan, and Rosalina. Hanu and the three nameless split into two groups, and we still don't know who went with who even now. Things went well for them at first, and they foiled the IPC's guards, turning off all the machines that had kept them imprisoned all this time. However, something happened. Someone blew up the Soulglad stash, and the entire prison was doused in Soulglad. This is when the Penacony dream began. At the end of the Hanu Prison Break event, Dr. Edward asked us 3 questions. What do you think was the true reason behind the prisoners' riot? What was the key factor that led to the success of the rebellion? And do you believe that the prisoners' plan to transform Dreamville would be successful? The game doesn't say it outright, but considering that the actual ending of the Penacony patch cycle is actually the Croc's one special ending, and the IPC came back, it's pretty easy to see that the true reason behind the prisoners' riot isn't actually the prisoners' desire for freedom so much as their craving for Soulglad. After all, they only rebelled when the Soulglad stash was confiscated, not when they were being enslaved and casually murdered by the IPC, and the first thing they did after achieving freedom was getting to the Soulglad stash. All in all, you can say that the theme behind this storyline is very much religion is the sigh of the oppressed creature, the heart of a heartless world, and the soul of soulless conditions. It is the opium of the people. Now, many people misunderstood this saying of Karl Marx as him dissing religion and saying that religion is always bad, but the meaning of this quote is exactly what the Hanu Prison Break lore and Soulglad is trying to say here, that the oppressed needs religions and an anti-anxiety drug precisely because they are oppressed. Like Nordiazepam, it can be abused by those in power and by the patients who use it, but religion and drugs do have their own social functions, as a calming sleep before they are ready to face the spiritual death, the harsh reality that welcomes people when they die in the Penacony dream and wake up. And nowhere can you see this theme more clearly than in Cocona Quest and in Sunday's storyline. Envision a Rose is an early 3.0 quest, but looking back, I can say that it's pretty predictive of Aventurin's plot and of Sunday's plot. Envision a Rose is named after the song La Vie en Rose, which was sung by Edith Piaf, the same singer as Non, Je ne regrette rien in Nolan's Inception. Thematically, the quest is heavily inspired by the Inception, with the song Envision a Rose Forthcoming playing the same role in the story as the Inception song, as the wake-up call signifying to the characters that they're still in a dream. The quest centers around Cocona, who had her hopes and dreams of becoming a singer dashed by her parents. She was forced to become a store clerk because it's a more stable job than the grandiose dream of becoming a singer. As such, Envision a Rose Forthcoming was Cocona's song and a representation of her dream. But at the same time, it not only stands for her personal aspirations of becoming a singer, but also stands for her love toward a man named Pound. Pound promised Cocona that he would leave Penacony together with her after winning a competition in Taiyaki. Unfortunately, he lost the competition, and it's heavily implied that Pound died. Due to the broken promise and her own broken dreams, Cocona fell into a depression, for which she was prescribed a special Soulglad mix to take away her memories and her sadness along with it. However, even with the Soulglad to soothe her soul and hide her memories away, Cocona still felt empty inside for a reason that she did not understand. In the quest, the MC met Cocona and returned the stolen memories to her in the forms of the gear, which brought back her memories and her depression along with it. The family and the MC tried to fix this by giving her more Soulglad, but she refused to forget again, which necessitates the MC to go into her inner world and help her confront those memories directly instead of just letting her wallow in her misery or hiding the memories away again. So basically getting actual therapy instead of continuing to use the addictive Soulglad as a way to run away from the pain of reality. At the end of the quest, we were given two options. Either we can let Cocona jump and exit the Penacony dream, or we can save her and let her continue the dream, albeit in a more healthy manner instead of dreaming to the point of forgetting reality, like what Soulglad and the family pushed Cocona to do. If we choose to let her jump and exit the dream, the store clerk position would be replaced by other people, and it's heavily implied that they, too, are the same as Cocona, suffering from their own situations, but only staving off the depression by Soulglad use. If we choose to save her, then Cocona would return to being a store clerk, albeit this time, she's also singing Envision the Rose Forthcoming as a hobby, essentially keeping the dream alive in her heart while still working in her old job and keeping touch with reality. So, to sum it up, the use of Soulglad in Cocona's quest is to create a fake happiness and let her forget her bad memories. However, even Soulglad would run out one day, and Cocona needed to face her memories sooner or later. When she finally chose to face her memories and be honest with herself, there was always a risk of her falling into the nihility and choosing to exit the dream forever, but there was also a chance for her to recover from both her drug use and her depression. If someone was there for her and never let her go, assisting her through her long recovery process, then she had a chance of successfully recovering, while still keeping her dream alive. Now, when we compare Cocona's story to Sunday's, the parallels and theme of Penacony become clear. If Cocona was left behind by Pound who died, Sunday was the caged bird, left behind in Penacony by Robin, who flew away to become a singer and realized her dream. Both Cocona and Sunday had aspirations in the music and arts, but both had their dreams dashed by their caretakers so they could have more realistic jobs, both of which are in the field of, effectively, customer service. To escape from the harsh reality of their lives, both Cocona and Sunday became susceptible to the fake dream of happiness at the bottom of the Soulglad bottle, but that did nothing to actually save them from the harsh reality and only weaved for them another dream. Like the two options with Cocona Quest, we, as the MC, are given a choice to either help Sunday regain their dreams and recover, or to reject him. Basically, the only difference between Cocona and Sunday is that Pound is dead, while Sunday, even if the MC chooses to let him go, still has a sister, Robin, to support him in his long road to recovery. And at this point, we can clearly see what the theme of Penacony was: a discussion on substance abuse, why people fall to substance abuse, how it changed people, and the long recovery process for the patients. Religion is the sigh of the oppressed creature, the heart of a heartless world, and the soul of soulless conditions. It is the opium of the people. Therefore, it is no wonder that Robin and the family are associated to not only addictive drugs, but also to religions. According to Drug Enforcement Administration drug slang references, quite a few drugs have names associated with heavens: dust, fairy, angel, white lady, white boy, etc. And we can see here that Sunday, Robin, and Misha are all angel-themed. Sunday, particularly, has repeatedly referred to his dream of recreating Ana as paradise. On Robin's halo are the flowers of Angel's Trumpet, which signals the end time and judgment day in Christianity. Chemically, Angel's Trumpet contains hallucinogenic alkaloids, atropine, scopolamine, hyoscyamine, which can cause hallucinations, memory loss, tachycardia, and death. Historically, Angel's Trumpet was used in the Americas in religious rituals to get high, or to get the victims high before the sacrifice to the gods. It was no coincidence that the family's plot involved summoning a god during the Charmony festival. The Oak and the rest of the family fundamentally just disagreed on who would be summoned, Ana or Zype. And of course, to complement Robin's Angel's Trumpets is Zype, who was inspired by Zype Totek, the god of agriculture and sacrifices. You know, the sacrifices that the alkaloids in the Angel's Trumpets are supposed to soothe away their pains before their death. Sleep is the rehearsal of death and all. Fundamentally, Robin and the family both represent the opium of the people, the sigh of the oppressed creature, the heart of a heartless world, and the soul of soulless conditions. They offer a temporary relief from the harsh reality, but they cannot offer true recovery, which can only come when the affected actually go to the astral express therapy and wake up from the false dream of paradise. If you read the lore books, you'll realize that the lore behind the family and the addiction to the sweet dreams are not as innocent as the main quest presents it. In Stowaway Investigation Report, you'll see stories of stowaways who sold their organs so that they could venture into the sweet dream once more. In the same book, you'll see reports of stowaways living in 2 cubic meter cabins, giving up on buying actual food in the present, letting themselves fade away into literal empty husks in real life because they are too addicted to the sweet dreams to give up. This is actually based on an actual phenomenon, the coffin houses of the poor and addicted in Hong Kong. And in the main quest itself, you can hear Sunday talking about a man who sold his family to slavery just so he could get into the sweet dreams. To add to this theme, in addition to the Emily Dickinson inspiration, the Hoyoverse writers have deliberately made a reference to a well-known star in Robin's design, Marilyn Monroe, and her final drug of choice, barbiturates. In life, Marilyn was famous for her sweet voice and high-pitched bird-like style of singing, popular at the time. Several of her contemporaries have compared her to a hummingbird, Robin, for her breathy, childish voice while portraying the dumb blonde character of pure sex appeal, dubbed Monroeism. She also frequently appeared in ads and is an icon of American consumerism, Penacony. Marilyn suffered from depression, low self-esteem, anxiety, insomnia, alcoholism, dependence on amphetamine, Adderall, and barbiturates, which is a hypnotic and a popular sleeping pill at the time, but also a depressant. She died of barbiturates overdose after several previous suicide attempts with the same drug. You can say that ultimately, Robin could not lead Sunday on his recovery journey and had to rely on the Astral Express because she herself is also a Charmony Dove, a Marilyn Monroe struggling with her own situations and addiction to the drugs called Happy Dream offered to them both by the family. She could let Sunday fly away, but like Sunday before her, in exchange for his freedom, she must stay behind in the false Happy Dream, now imprisoned by the machinations of the family, the alfalfa, and the Mephistopheles of the story the entire time, the IPC and Sparkle. When Sparkle's trailer was released, it caused quite a stir online because it heavily referenced Marinol, a song by Opti talking about addiction and suicide ideation. Well, it caused a stir because it was a very R18+ song and Honkai Star Rail is a PG-13 game, and because it was referenced without permission. That aside, with the entire theme of Penacony being drug abuse, we can definitely say that the reference to Opti's Marinol was quite deliberate thematically at least. In the song, a girl abused Marinol and hallucinated and dreamt about dying before dying for real. From the content of the song, you'd think that the drug Marinol was inspired off must be something very addictive, but in reality, Marinol is just a spoof of Marinol, also known as Dronabinol, a synthetic THC indicated to treat nausea, anorexia, and withdrawal symptoms. Its side effects can include euphoria, tachycardia, hypertension, nausea, somnolence, abnormal thinking, and drug abuse. However, its potential for drug abuse in real life is actually quite low because its onset is very slow and the psychoactive effects are quite unpleasant. As such, officially in the US, Dronabinol is classified as a Schedule III drug on the same level as dihydrocodeine and ketamine and lower than other cannabinoids in Schedule I. So despite taking heavy inspiration from Opti's Marinol, I would say that Sparkle's Marinol is more based on the real usage of it in real life rather than in Opti's MV. As in, to the Penacony story, in which a pair of twins are the metaphorical drug addicts on their ways to recovery, Sparkle's Marinol-fueled happy ending is used here as a treatment for the twins' proverbial withdrawal symptoms rather than being the substance they're actually addicted to. Sure, Marinol still has addictive potential, and if you lose yourself in Sparkle's script, she will most definitely eat you alive and turn you into Nanook, but ultimately, Sparkle's dream acts as a stopgap, a small break after Faust Part 1 plot of Penacony, before the twins can actually face the harsh reality waiting for them in Faust Part 2, which is Amphireus. In the Faust allegory, Sunday and Robin both share bits and pieces of Faust's and Gretchen's stories. In Faust Part 1, Faust Sunday made a deal with Mephistopheles Sparkle to stop time at the perfect moment of happiness. The Walpurgis Snatch was enacted, luring Faust Sunday to lose himself in the eternal dream of Aina forever. However, his plan was foiled, and it is here that Sunday and Robin switched roles. At the end of the Walpurgisnacht, the embryo of philosophy Gretchen Sunday had been carrying was drowned, leaving Gretchen Sunday in prison for his sin. Robin then stepped up to become Faust, making a deal with her own personal Mephistopheles, Jade, for Gretchen Sunday's freedom. And yet, the twins switched roles once more, as Faust Sunday was now sent into the ideal past of classical Greek by Mephistopheles' Sparkle in his dream. Hence, this is why we are still in Sparkle's script in Amphireus. Sunday is getting his Astral Express therapy and Sparkle treatment. His Faust recovery storyline is only halfway through. He has only gone through Faust Part 1, and the Faust Part 2 plot in Amphireus awaits him. It is only when Faust Sunday has reached the paradise of recovery once more that Mephistopheles' Sparkle can actually be defeated, the treatment for withdrawal can be dropped, and the story concludes. Overall, from Nordiazepam, to Cocaine, to Barbiturates, to Angel's Trumpet, and to Marinol, you can say that the whole plot of Penacony, and more specifically, that of the twins, is effectively an allegory for substance abuse and a discussion of the opioid epidemic in the US. It is fundamentally an attempt to humanize and empathize with the drug abuse patients, but at the same time, it tries to send a wholesome and positive message to the patients, a message of love, support, and hope on the long road of recovery. However, at the same time, it's still an unfinished plot. Sunday is still on the Sparkle treatment, and Robin is now currently stuck in a cage in the exact position Sunday had been in. After all, as of 3.0, we are still at the very start of Faust Part 2 in Amphireus. That said, it doesn't mean that I think the execution of the plotline in 2.2 and 2.3 are exactly elegant. I personally think it could have used its time more efficiently to drive home the drug use metaphor in the main quest instead of sticking it in the background lore and world quests, but as a whole, Penacony plotline technically hasn't ended yet, and I hope that the Honkai Star Rail writers would manage to land the actual conclusion to Faust and the twin story. In any case, I know that this has been a heavy topic to follow. I hope that you all watching this take care, don't do drugs, and understand the wholesome and positive message the Penacony story has been trying to tell. Religion is the sigh of the oppressed creature, the heart of a heartless world, and the soul of soulless conditions. It is the opium of the people.